Alright, once again, another Cardfight Vanguard deck profile. This time on technically the first dragon deck of Brandt Gate when it comes to D-Series, the Aelquilibra Fantôme deck, turning from Dragon Empire into Brandt Gate. And probably the deck I was looking forward to the most when it comes to the Fantôme deck, or even just the second, because Uberk was also one of those I was looking forward to. And this deck is overall just so awesome because I really love the aspect on what they did with the deck. It's essentially a mix-up between both Aelquilibra along with Welstra, aka the two friends that ran the same company, and it's basically their decks mashed up into one, hence why it's Brandt Gate, but with the dragon aesthetic. And speaking of those two decks, essentially it's both decks combined into one with their playstyle. Aelquilibra with the Overcharge ability, but with Welstra's playstyle with Operate. And because it does Operate, it also means that you're going to be running a lot of set orders, which is going to be a weakness of the deck, so you are going to have quite a bit of zero shields. And because of Welstra's product placement, those weapons can end up becoming units, at least some of them. Welstra originally did not even have that many units, except for essentially, I believe, 2, and the main one being Maximum. While Aelquilibra, as the CEO and the one who actually operates, actually turns his weapons into actual units, full-on transformed into dragons, and then overcharges them, and essentially just gives them more power like that. And I just found that pretty awesome when it comes to a mix between the two, that I eventually just really love this deck no matter what. So with the idea of the deck in play, let's get started with the deck profile with, of course, the Ride deck. So first off, here's the starter, which you do have to run, and it's going to be called the Liberate archetype. Because when you ride the grade 1, you get to reveal a grade 3 Aelquilibra from your ride deck, and then look at top 7 cards of your deck to choose up to one product, or up to one Crimson Moon card, and put it to your hand, of course, shuffle your deck. The search is of course pretty nice, and it's also nice that you could do it on your grade 1 turn because you do have a grade 1 product, so you could play it immediately. Although sometimes you might not want to play it immediately just to save it for your grade 3. And the second skill is also pretty useful because from Soul, if you have at least a grade 3 Vanguard Aelquilibra, you can put this to the order zone and then choose a product card from your drop zone and put it into your order zone. While there isn't really any purpose to really put it in the order zone, it does technically count towards face-up cards in the order zone. So if there are abilities for that, that can actually be pretty useful. But at the moment, there's not really anything that will count towards face-up cards in the order zone, as most of the cards will say face-up set orders in the order zone instead. But future reasons, that might actually have some use. But mostly just for the ride line reasons and to recycle the product, because being able to just cheat them out from the drop zone is always nice. In which now we go to the new version of the grade 2, where on Vanguard you can reveal a grade 3 Aelquilibra from your red deck to choose a product from the order zone and operate it. And by doing so, you're actually going to get a superior call and additional ability on top of it, which will be explained later. With the next skill, where when rolled upon by a grade 3 Aelquilibra, you put this to the order zone and then search your deck for up to one product card, reveal it and put it in your hand, of course shuffle your deck, which is going to be very helpful because you really want that consistency. And then the next skill is at the order zone. This card is also treated as a set order. That's very huge right there, being treated as a set order. And then all your rear guards with Liberate Wingman, aka your products for this deck, get the Intercept ability and can also intercept from the back row. And I absolutely love this because, yes, it practically turns your 0 shield units into actual 5k shield units for the deck. Yes, you still can't guard them from hand, but the fact that you could still use them as 5k shields as intercepts is just still pretty nice. And especially there's many ways to just recycle them, which is also pretty cool. And the fact that it's one of those rare cards that it's a unit that becomes a set order, that's a pretty rare feat that I found it pretty unique. In which now we go to the Aelquilibra Fantôme, and Aelquilibra Fantôme has 3 skills, the first one being reveal up to 3 products from your hand and put them all to the order zone. And if you put at least 1, you draw a card, but if you put at least 2, you get plus 5k power as well. And yes, you do really want that power increase, as Aelquilibra himself doesn't really get that much power. So ideally, you do actually want to put at least 2 products so you could give it some power. But it is nice that you can trade off for the draw. But the second skill is once per turn, counterblast 1, soul blast 1. Choose up to the same number of products as equal to the grade of your opponent's Vanguard and operate them. Basically, you go first, you can operate 2 because your opponent will be at grade 2. But if you went second, since your opponent's already at grade 3, you can operate 3. So, of course, Going first, not as strong. Going second, even better. Typical like that. But most of the time, you are going to be operating 3, and they're going to be 3 different products because you have to operate 3 different products. In which the last skill is the Fantôme skill, where once per turn you can bind a Crimson Moon card from your hand, soul, or drop, and then choose the same number of rear guards with the Overcharge ability up to the number of your opponent's grade, and they get plus 5k power in turn. And then if you choose at least 3, it gets drive plus 1. So once again, similar to the other skill, if you went first, most likely you can only pick 2, so it's only going to be twin drive, and then if you went second, you can pick 3. But idea here is that you call the 2 products, and then you overcharge your products, and then you get your full power. So when both players are at grade 3, you're going to be at full power. But that also means that everything really is reliant on its support, so Aelquilibra himself is just really more of a power-up engine for all your main products. But already I find it pretty cool because the second skill, operating 3 products, basically means 3 superior calls for the deck, which will be explained why. And then Fantôme skill, give them additional power, which means activating bonus skills. In which we continue on with the main deck with of course 3 more for Persona, because Persona. And then 4 Crimson Moon, because you just need to play your Fantôme skill as soon as you can, and you just want to see these. And then to the main cards themselves, which are all the products, and they're all going to have the Bright Wingman in name. First one will be Tristia. So Tristia, you would call it, and this one will become a 13k base with a crit of 1 and 5k shield. And then once you call it, it gets plus 10k power. With the extra bonus where when it's overcharged, aka when it's chosen by Aelquilibra's ability, it gets a crit plus 1. So basically you operate this so you can call it, and it'll be a 23k just because of its own skill. And then also when you overcharge it, it also gets a crit. So it'll become a 23k with a crit of 2 in the early game. It doesn't matter what grade your opponent is at, which is also pretty nice. But of course turn after you're not going to get the extra 10k anymore, so ideally you do want to intercept with this through the grade 2 skill, and then just recycle this again, and then of course operate again. Right now I do have 4 copies of this, and not 3 because I am missing 1 copy of the grade 2, hence why it's 4 copies right here. But additionally, they also have the skill where they can only be operated by a Phantom Vanguard, just because Welstra reasons really. And also when you search it with a Crimson Moon, it is also treated as a Crimson Moon card, so you could actually search these to put to your hand and not just straight up call something, as the Crimson Moon can actually miss sometimes and it has to call something. So being able to just search through Crimson Moon is also very helpful. But regardless, you do have to run these because this is one of your better options. But you will probably cut this down in the future the minute they make more products, but this is still a good one to run, maybe at 3 at the most. In which we go to the grade 2, Waverless, which I am missing 1 copy, and just like the other one, can be only operated by a Phantom Vanguard and can be searched through Crimson Moon because it will be treated as Crimson Moon. And when you operate it, it'll be a 10k unit with a 10k shield with an extra crit and the Intercept ability, and when you call it, you draw a card, which is of course pretty nice. And when you overcharge it, it gets the skill where when your Vanguard attacks, you can Energy Blast 3 to stand this unit, and your opponent's Vanguard is at least grade 3, plus 10k as well. And it gets plus additional 5k power as well for overcharging it. So this one's the better 4 of over the grade 3 because this is a multi-attacker, and any multi-attackers is usually a 4 of. And the nice part is that technically you could have 2 of these on board and then overcharge both of them so you could get 5 attacks. Although most of the time you're not going to do that because when you operate, you have to operate 3 different names. But in case that you still have this on board, you can always operate the other copy of this from the order zone so you could actually have 5 attacks. So I do prefer having this. And also being a 10k shield is another reason why I rather have 4 of these. But since I am missing 1, it is 3 copies and 4 of the other one. But once I get my 4th copy, it's going to be flipped around. And then finally, the one that you're going to be running always 2 of is Rubroy, because once again, can be operated from Phantoms and can also be searched by Crimson Moon. And when operated, you call this to rearguard as a 8k unit with 5k shield, crit of 1 with the boost ability, so typical grade 1, and if your opponent's Vanguard is at least grade 3, you also minus it by 5k power into your turn, which is definitely very nice, especially just to shrink down your opponent's power. But the overcharge ability is really what makes this as a 2 of, because in the back row center rearguard, aka behind the Vanguard, when you overcharge it and your opponent's damage zone has 4 or less cards, and you persona during the turn, choose one of your opponent's Vanguard and deal 1 damage to it. and then you cannot activate this Overcharge ability for the rest of the fight. So it's a one-time use snipe in your opponent's face on a Persona right turn, which by then it could either be too late or just be used later on, which by then you might end up dying. So there is few unfortunate things about this card, but it is still nice to snipe out your opponent, so it actually makes your opponent hit 5 damage just to pressure your opponent to death. And being able to call a booster is always pretty nice, while still minusing your opponent 5k. But kind of unfortunate that it's only a one-time use snipe. And so that's it for all the products. So to the main units, so first off, the Crimson Moon Searcher, because you always need these. And into the grade 1 lineup, which is a card that I am missing a 4th copy because I didn't pull in my case, which is the Brandt Dragon. So when placed from hand, you can count box 1 to choose up to 2 products from your drop zone to put it to your hand. This will immediately let you basically re-put them all in the order zone through Aelquilibra's ability and get you the draw and plus 5k power on top of it. So that's already pretty nice from the recycling part. And normally these wouldn't be 4-of, but it's actually the second skill that makes this an auto 4-of, because of the fact that it's an Overcharge ability. The fact that it's an Overcharge ability makes this as a 4-of, as you do need another unit with Overcharge. Because at the moment, technically 4 units isn't enough. But anyway, to the skill where at the end about this unit boosts, you can put this card to soul during the turn you overcharge it, and then look at the top 5 cards of your deck to choose up to 1 set order or 1 Crimson Moon from among them and put your hand of 4 shuffle your deck. So put to soul, which is very helpful, extra consistency boost, which is also another reason why you should run 4 of this, and also has the overcharge ability, which is also very important because you do want to select this in your very first grade 3 turn, while the grade 1 product is mainly just when you are turn 4 or after. And also for the fact that you can recycle, which is another reason why this needs to be a 4-up, because you just need another card that you can target for operation, especially if you're going second just for that triple drive. And at the moment, this is the only other card that you can overcharge. And at the moment, I am running 1 extra copy of the Spirited Core Dragon, which is the generic for the set, and it can be pretty useful because when discarded from hand by riding for your ride deck, you can look at top 7 cards of your deck to choose up to 1 set order from among them and put your hand, of course, shuffle your deck, which is a nice consistency boost with a nice second skill where at rear guard or drop zone, while your opponent's Vanguard is at least grade 3 and you're getting attacked, you can remove this card and then give your Vanguard plus 10k power into the end of the battle. But you cannot play the same skill for the rest of the turn, so basically it becomes a 10k shield whether it's on rear guard or drop, which is actually very nice, hence why I kind of like to run this. Also because I have space for it, which is another reason. This would be a 2-off if I wasn't actually missing a copy of the other card. But the consistency search is actually pretty nice, although not completely necessary. If you do deem things like Counterblast being a problem, I would probably recommend Bulba Mine. And then one last card that is going to be pretty expensive is Builderid, which you don't necessarily have to run this card, but this card is actually really good for the deck because 1, during the battle that this unit boosts, while your Vanguard is at least grade 3, and you have 2 set orders in the order zone, aka your grade 2 is also counted as well, and most of the time you will have this. This card gives us 5k power, so it's a 13k booster. With the second skill where at the end battle this unit boosts, while you have a set order in the order zone, you can put this to soul to look at top 5 cards of your deck to choose up to 1 grade 2 or greater unit, or 1 set order from among them and add to your hand. So it's another consistency booster, which is why I just run 4 of this. And also it lets you search for Persona Ride, which is another reason, so why not run 4? And even if you were to search a unit, which could be your grade 2 discard fodder, you can also use it as guard fodder for extra draw as well. And then finally, for PGs, because PGs, if you have Sanctitude, go ahead and run the 1 copy of Sanctitude. And then trigger lineup, OT, pick whatever you want, but this one's definitely very powerful. 8 crits to kill your opponent as soon as you can. 3 draws, so you actually draw your pieces, although at the same time fronts might be okay, but I have witnessed this deck sometimes lacking the draw. And finally 4 heals, 2 being counters. And so that's it for this deck profile, my Aelquilibra Phantom deck. What do you guys think of it? What other cards would you recommend? And what other changes would you make? So far, I like the cards that I have, although like I said, I am missing certain cards, mainly the 4th copy of 2 specific cards, so I am going to switch up the ratios the minute I get them in. But so far, this deck has been working out pretty well, and it's actually pretty fun. Ever since they revealed this from the manga, I was just excited for the deck, as Aelquilibra was one of those decks that was pretty simple when it came to the Dragon Empire version, but I really love the mix-up with Welstra with this deck, and the fact that the products literally transform into dragon-themed units. or at least some of them. And I just found that pretty awesome, to the fact that I just really wanted to build this deck. And just the idea of it is pretty cool as well, because I really love dragons with guns, and I've been looking for a Brandt Gate Dragon themed deck, and this is definitely one that I like. But overall, it is a pretty fun deck, and depending on how you decide to build it, it could be either budget friendly or not budget friendly. But luckily, all the key cards that you do need are kind of budget friendly, except for the Crimson Moon Searcher. Although even then, the Crimson Moon Searcher for Brandt Gate is not expensive in comparison to some of the other nations, so you might be able to say that this deck can be kind of budget. But if you are going to make this a little more competitive, you are unfortunately going to need to run some of the expensive generics. But overall, it is a pretty fun deck, and if you love dragons with guns, especially alien theme, I could definitely say this deck could be recommended. But other than that, that's for this, and see you all next time.